Thank you. Hello and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from women who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and chief empowerment officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can learn more about us at www.togetherindigital.com. And every Friday, I get the immense pleasure of bringing yet another amazing woman to all of you. And usually, because our community and networking is such an amazing thing, another one of our members and ambassadors actually brought our guest to my attention because she was a guest on her LinkedIn Live. So we are here today with Marty Constant. Marty is a workplace futurist and the best-selling author of Activate Your Agile Career. She has an MBA from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business and is a former technology executive that has worked in Silicon Valley. At the top of her, as a top career influencer, she has been featured in media outlets such as NBC Chicago, Forbes, The Muse, and has worked for companies like Samsung, Dow Jones, and Apple. Maybe you've heard of them. Marty is an expert at applying agile principles to workforce development. I hope I can talk better through the rest of this today. But she just has a lot of amazing experience and wisdom and points of view to share that I just felt, given the current economic climate and the way we're all either pivoting in our careers or looking for work, this is just going to be such a relevant and timely conversation. So thank you for being here, Marty. We appreciate you.
I'm so happy to be here, and I just love being around fellow marketing mindset people, women in particular. So happy to be here, Amy.
Yeah, it is. It's a privilege I get every single day. I get kind of spoiled by it because it was not a thing that I had going throughout my career. I had very few female strong relationships when I was working in the industry. And now it's like I get to foster and help foster actually all of this. So thank you for the recommendation, Brenda, to have Marty with us. And Marty, I love talking with you and listening about, any woman I get to talk to, guest or not, even our members, just hearing your career paths and journeys and how different they all are and how remarkable they all are. So, your bio was relatively short for somebody quite so accomplished. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about your career path and your journey with our listeners.
Will do. And I might add, as a moment of interest, is that the conversations that people like Amy and I have before we plan on a meeting like this should be recorded. Those are the fun conversations. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of that in here today. It's the conversational stuff that is the most authentic. So to answer your question, how did I get to where I am today as a workplace futurist? I actually started out my career as a graphic designer for tech companies. I loved technology and learned so much and figured out, about 5 to 10 years into the business, that I needed more. I needed marketing. People were starting to come to me as a graphic communicator for tech. I need strategy, I need this. And I used to say, I can do all of that. But the reality was I didn't know what I was doing. So I got properly credentialed with an MBA in marketing and started working in marketing and marketing communications. We all know that marketing comes in all different flavors, but I started out in marketing communications, and I always brought this context of visual impact with me. And from there, I started working at tech companies. And one of my bosses told me, Marty, if you really love marketing and design more than anything, think about your career path. Do you want to work for an agency where everyone understands what you do and is on your side, or do you want to work in technology companies? It's a bit of an uphill struggle when you are running marketing for a company. And I thought about that a lot, and I went back and forth with that. we will tell more of the story as Amy and I will talk, but there is a way that I got from marketing to becoming a workplace futurist.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's interesting too, just kind of coming up in a similar space. I went to school for design and advertising. I chose the path of copywriting. I wonder, as you were kind of, doing the work of design and seeing the skill sets that you had within strategy and being interested in more than marketing, this is a bonus question. Were you ever sort of thrown that curveball by anyone that like, hey, you're a designer, like that's your lane, be a designer? Or do you feel like you had like the support you needed to kind of explore other avenues when it came to marketing and getting your MBA?
It was done in more subtle ways. No one ever told me I couldn't do what I said I could. I said, oh yeah, I can do marketing. I can put that together for you. I had a business partner and we ran a marketing communications agency for tech only, another woman early in my career. And so the subtlety was that when we would say, oh yeah, I can do that, they just didn't hire us for that. They never came back and said, we need something else. I could just see where they were going with that. And it was like being prevented from getting an insider's view into the client. And I was just so upset not having that view, that strategic view. And that's why I got the credential in marketing.
Yeah, that was really smart. That was really smart because I just related a lot having a similar path. And actually a lot of our live audience is in the chat sharing. They feel a lot of what you're saying and have similar experiences. I mean, because there were times I was flat out told no. I brought my portfolio to a creative director that was mentoring me at Leo Burnett. And he's like, why do you have copywriter / designer? You're either one or the other. You have to choose. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll choose. And then I chose. And then I started working as a copywriter at Team Detroit, working on Ford. And the strategy team was like, you are doing some amazing work on our search copy and creating more efficient processes. What do you think about becoming a strategist? And I was like, but then I have to leave my creative career path. I was so young, I had no idea. And it felt like very much one or the other. But the thing I love about our industry, digital and tech, is that like, we're multifaceted, we are multi-talented, we are multi-potentialites, and digital just gives you, and tech gives you the opportunity to kind of take that advantage of being a strategic designer and finding spaces in which you can really flourish and leverage all of your skill sets versus kind of narrowing them in. So I love how the industry has worked more towards accommodating those skill sets.
What was an interesting experience that I had when I was a designer? I'd work with marketers, I'd work with copywriters, and we'd sit around sometimes and they'd say, you first. I go, what do you mean? We need to have the plan, we need to have the copy, we need to have all that. And the copywriters would say, why don't you come up with some ideas, creative concepts? Well, how do you come up with those ideas? You have to understand the strategy. You have to understand the industry. So I felt like I was always studying that. And so you first was always the game we played, the copy and the creative, back and forth and back and forth. And everybody wanted to be second. Nobody wanted to be first.
Yep. It's a scary thing, right? Being first. I love that. And I agree, Nikki, who's in our live audience, rise up against the specialization narrative. So true. All right. So you have written a book talking about your agile career. And I do want to throw in one more bonus question for those who are listening. Now, I want to assume all of you understand what agile is, but let's go ahead and define really quickly for them what agile is before we append it to the idea of a career and a career path.
Okay. So when you hear agile, you're going to think Scrum Masters. You're going to think of agile transformation. There's agile everywhere today. 10 years ago, when I typed in what is career agility, because it's an idea I had, 0 results on the browser, 0 results on Google. And I thought there's something here. I had worked with engineers in my tech career, side by side, working with them and understanding the value of how they collaborated and worked together and iterated things. So to get to your question, I created at that time a definition. And if you type in definition, career agility, my definition is going to be the #1 result on your browser. And the definition is, what is an agile career? Career agility is a self-reflective, incremental career guided by response to change and evolving job roles and designed to optimize creativity, growth, and happiness. So that was paralleled a little bit from how they defined agile in the software development world. That was my first exposure to agile, was the software development world.
Yeah, it's a really great mindset to have when it comes to looking at your career. I think especially if you are a woman, not just because the cross-pollination of skill sets and growth and experience, but also our lives as women. You know, if and when we choose to become mothers, if and when we need to be taking care of our parents that are aging or unwell, there's so many aspects of our life that kind of take a little, they're a little bit of a curveball for women. And I think the thing I love about your idea with career agility is that it almost takes a lot of those notions and spins them into a different light, to say that these are actually positive attributes to, you know, building up a career, as you said, that leads to not just success, but also happiness, you know.
It is. And
So
that's why happiness is one of the aspects. It's one of the three pillars: creativity, growth, and happiness. And we had talked initially, like, well, Marty, how did you think about applying agility? And I had worked along with technical people all the time in software development, and they did a couple things really well. They collaborated, they had stand-up meetings every day. They identified what was missing, where they could advance on. They ran elements like sprints, so setting goals, just like we in marketing have goals to deliver things. And I thought, why can't we take that same thing and apply it to the management of one's own career? And that was how it was born. And I say to each and every person here, former designers included, that if you have a really cool idea and you don't see it out there, or you see not much of it, you can play a big role in building that space. I did not build the career agility space by myself. As a marketer, I did not put a big old trademark on there so that no one would want to use it. I wanted to apply an open source mentality to it so that we as a community could make it better. So we'll see lots of results for career agility now, but now people know what it is. Corporations know what it is.
That's great. And I mean, as I mentioned earlier, when we first started, the book and the topic, especially, I know it's been out for a little while, but it feels incredibly relevant right now. Last week, there were layoffs throughout the tech industry, everyone from Vimeo to TikTok and AI healthcare company Olive, just to name a few. How can we start to leverage what we typically perceive, such as layoffs, as setbacks? We see them as setbacks, how can we see them as opportunities by taking a more agile approach to our career?
Well, if you are agile, truly agile, and if you're looking to the future, you're doing things like challenging your assumptions, you're noticing the trends, you're taking action. So these are all things that you can do in parallel. But let's just say you haven't done any of these and it's just a surprise that you got laid off. I mean, I've worked with lots of people like this. They are totally surprised, but when they reflect back, they're not so surprised.
Yeah.
You can take a step back and ask yourself, what is the path to my future in my role or something else? So what can I upskill? In marketing, we have lots of different ways. Amy, you talked about copywriting, you talked about strategy, lots of different things. You talked about digital, data analysts, lots of different ways that you can do marketing. So it's a matter of saying, what is it that I can do to make me more relevant for the next 2 to 3 to 5 years? It's really 2 to 3 years. You know, there was a time when I think Scott Brinker was the very first marketing technologist in the whole country, right? He applied that and he was working on marketing automation. I think he works at HubSpot now.
Yeah.
But I remember very first person, he named himself that. Ann Hanley was the world's first person in charge of content marketing. That was a trend. That's what people were starting to ride on. And then conferences started to follow. So ask yourselves now, if you're one of those people today, what's happening in AI and what is happening in the metaverse and what is happening in NFTs and what is happening in blockchain?
Yeah.
Those are not far away concepts. Those are concepts that are going to be appended to your titles in the future. And you can create it or find a community of people that are already doing it. We already have metaverse managers.
Yeah.
VPs of metaverse marketing, right? It just happened, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe a year ago was the first time I heard of it. But this is an opportunity.
Right.
The robots don't have to take over. We can be cobots and manage the technology versus having the technology manage us.
Yes. Yeah. That's such a great point of view. And again, mindset, you might see a layoff as a setback, but then it's also a reset. It is like you said, it's an opportunity to look at what's happening in the world, what's fascinating you. And then, how can I make myself more relevant over the next several years as an expert in X, Y, and Z? And I mean, I think our community especially is so prime for this because they are constant learners and they're constantly striving for personal and professional development and growth. But then sometimes they feel like there's not a lot of direction. What I like about your mindset work here is that it's, again, being that workplace futurist that you are, it is thinking forward and in the future, not to say when am I going to find my next strategy job? When am I going to find my next copywriting job? Maybe it is specializing in one of those spaces and areas and bringing that, lens to it. I think that's really smart. And that makes a lot of sense. And it's, again, I think it's obviously from your experience, your background, and all the things that you've been able to do in your career, you're living proof that the method works. So as I was doing my research, I loved one of the questions that you had posed to potential readers, which was, what if you could imagine what's next for your work life without risking your current job? Which is a great question for those of you who are currently gainfully employed, while the rest of our heads kind of explode over this idea of like thinking about the future career without risking the current job. And then it's like, somehow it's like, cannot compute, head explodes kind of a thing. Can you enlighten us a little bit on how this is even possible?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that you can be doing. The example we just gave about people losing their jobs, you can't really change that. But what you can change going forward is to always be thinking in parallel paths. I used to be a swimmer and a lifeguard, and a lot of metaphors there, but I thought about, okay, do you change what you're swimming? Do you change lanes? So think about getting skilled in what interests you. So the ultimate goal is the perfect Venn diagram, which is what are you good at and what do you want to be doing? I got stuck a couple times doing things that I was really good at, but it wasn't what I loved. Amy, you talked about, copywriter, designer, strategist, what do I love? You actually reflected something that is part of the career agility model, which is A/B testing your career. We A/B test headlines. Why not A/B test?
Right.
You could do it. You could take on a special project. Amy could have taken on a special project in design or copywriting and not moved over into the role. There's always something. I mean, people will always let you work extra hours on a project. So that's one thing. And then the other aspect is, I call it parallel pursuits. And we do this all the time. The webinars and the conversations we're having right now is something that we are doing on the side to make us more valuable so that we're more switched on for the future. And this is something that parallel pursuits it doesn't have to be just education or just a webinar. It can be LinkedIn Learning. People are creating their own degrees. Yeah, I got an MBA, but I didn't have to. I could have taken all those courses and then marketed myself accordingly. maybe it wouldn't have gotten into certain doors, but it would have gotten into a lot of others. We all know that there's not as much value on the MBA or the advanced degree as much as there are on the skills and the energy and enthusiasm for your role.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think that's great advice. And I just want to repeat what you said at the very beginning of that remark, which is how many of us are just spending all of our time in our career doing what we know we're good at versus looking at what do we love and infusing what we're good at into the things that we love. And there's so many people that, I know I've been one of them where I was like my 14 years of working in advertising and marketing, heads down, working hard and never looking up to acknowledge how I could apply my gifts and my skills to the things that I love until I found this group, of course. But I think that's wonderful. And it is so true. It's so easy for us to default because we think, we are working for a paycheck, not just purpose. But how often there is opportunity to, volunteer or do side projects, like you said, in parallel with the things that we love, and you bring those gifts into that versus, saying, I just have to do this because this is what I'm good at. And I love a good Venn diagram. So thank you for that visual and that inspiration. That was a fantastic answer.
Well, it's always about, not just, doing the Venn diagram, but it's about trying to figure out, things like strategic volunteering. I spend a lot of my time, I'm on a couple boards right now, and it takes a lot of work, but I always tell people the way to build a relationship is to collaborate on a project. It's like we have a sense of purpose. The best leaders instill that sense of purpose in a team, right? So when you are working on a shared vision and a shared goal as a strategic volunteer, you have a sense of purpose and you get close to these people in a way, maybe not all at once, but within about a year of working and collaborating, these people will do a lot for you. They will refer you. They might not, refer you to the exact role, but they know people, right? And they like you. They do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. I think it allows you to kind of follow your passion and purpose. And then in turn, by, again, providing your gifts, your talents, and your time, it pays off, it pays off and provides new opportunities that you might not have had otherwise. So I think that's great. Any other ways we can leverage agile mindset to help us through the process of, parallel pathing our career? You mentioned A/B testing. I think that was really great. Do you have any examples of how you might go about that?
Okay, an A/B test, unlike when you're testing out a headline, for instance, A or B or C, in a career, you can test your position out in sequence. So let's use Amy as the example, or many of you who were designers. You could go back and design and say, you know what, I did some of this marketing work, but I'm not as fulfilled creatively. So you could end up doing a portion of your role or all of it in design. So it's not going back, it's just saying, I like that better. So if you have 8 roles or 10 roles in your life, you can mix and match those roles, or you could go back. And the other way that you can A/B test is you can do a test on the side. You can take on a really difficult project within the company to gain visibility, or you could do some volunteer work, or you could get upskilled or reskilled in something that has nothing to do. Who knew that Amy was going to be running this organization 10 years ago? Did you know this, Amy?
No.
Yeah. So you probably thought I'm in marketing, I'm in advertising, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly. I think it is. I don't mind you using me an example at all because I love sharing the story. For those who are listening, I was a member first. This community and organization found me when I was heads down with 2 young kids working 70 hours a week. And I didn't see there was other ways, other opportunities. And so by volunteering and leading a board in Cincinnati, eventually it came to the point where our founder asked me to step in and run things. Well, she ran for Congress because a member recommended her for it. So again, there's so much beauty in in putting yourself out there in the sense of finding community and, like you said, collaborating with others, even outside of the place that you work. Because I'll often joke and say, people probably heard me say it a couple times before, is like my network used to be the four walls of my cubicle. I didn't even always know the people on the next floor above me at the agency because I'm just so tunnel visioned into the work that I'm doing. And then I also think it's kind of endemic of like our sort of industry as well, especially in marketing. If you're outside of like maybe just like a pillar of, UX or design or copy or strategy or marketing, there are people who are working in-house at marketing, doing marketing for companies, and you have all the title, you have the one title, but you do all the things. So I think the way that you just talked about and answered that last question, I hope will help some of you who do feel like you have a cluster of a job and it is hard to see through that clutter, to really think about how often do you go back and look at and say, that kind of project really makes me excited. This is the kind of work that I feel energized by doing. I just don't think we slow down to ask ourselves those questions very often. So I love that. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Amy, there's a couple really great questions that I would hate to ignore. They're related by Carrie and Sarah. Do you mind that we attack them now?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and ask those questions.
So these are such great questions. So I will tell you, you can be in Silicon Valley in your 50s as a woman and be in hot demand.
Mm-hmm.
I experienced that and saw no problem. So it's to Carrie, it's not about the age. This is your future age you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
50 something. And so it's a number, it's not reflective of your skills. So there's a book that just came out, and I went to a webinar for my training, and it's called Work Without Jobs by, I have to get his name, Ravan Jasuthasan. Ravan Jasuthasan. Phenomenal book called Work Without Jobs. The point he's trying to make is the future, and I believe this to be true because it's very agile, isn't going to be about specific job descriptions. It's going to be about, these are the 10 goals that we have as an organization to accomplish. How are we going to self-assemble, agile? How are we going to self-assemble in teams to accomplish this? And what are the skills? So let's use your optimal skills versus all the stuff that you're not as great at and work on those teams. This also relies on a new form of leadership, which is to say that people will rally around leaders of teams that have a sense of purpose. And so if this isn't happening visibly in organizations that you see, it's going to be happening. And there's a mindset and a talk around this that could be very useful. Another way of thinking about it is we have no skills, KNOW, we have flex skills, and we have self skills. So we kind of think of flex skills and self skills as our power skills. I don't like to think of them as soft skills. And the know skills, it's like, what is it that you know? So the more you're able to articulate what it is that you know to the people that are interested in your capabilities, the better off you're going to be. And what's going to really help you solidify your opportunity for a particular role is your awareness of oneself, your capability of being able to assemble your transferable skills in a credible way, optimizing your personal brand. That's a lot to throw at you, Carrie and Sarah, but I would say, 2025, Carrie's saying, how does this apply to job hunting to someone who in 2025 is going to be in her 50s? I'd say it's not about the age. It is about your set of skills, and it is about your network. It is not about age, although some companies may rule you out. That's okay. You don't want to be there.
In many ways. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and Sarah's question was interesting. I'm a copywriter. I want to be a creative manager. One of the best ways that I've seen, Sarah, is to take on a volunteer role where you actually manage a whole program and you are the creative manager. There's also things, Brenda could probably do a session on this. You could actually put up some case studies on LinkedIn. You could contribute to that discussion or contribute to the discussion with the creative management community on LinkedIn, because that's the powerful way to continue building your network for people to understand what you're good at and what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Carrie and Sarah, for those questions. And thanks for making sure we got to them. Marty, 100% agree. Don't make it about your age. We have several past recordings, and Carrie, you're pretty frequent to a lot of our events. So you might have seen some of these, the ones on personality brand that we did with Danielle Hughes a few weeks back. That podcast actually just went live. If you want to go back and listen to that, that is a great kind of tactical conversation on how to start doing that in a way that is authentic and true to you, because I wholeheartedly agree, Marty. I had a woman that reached out to me for some coaching, and the first thing she said to me, and I've talked about her before in the podcast, so I don't know if she ever listened again, but the first thing she said to me when the camera came on, she's like, well, as you can tell, I'm older in age. And I was like, stop right now. I was like, what in the hell does that have to do with anything we're about to discuss? I was like, you are a seasoned professional. That is the only thing that I see in front of me right now. And
Well,
so I think, go ahead.
I mean, let's give kudos to Brenda, because I think that she coined this phrase. I will attribute it to her. And she talks about the experience rich. She had a whole webinar on it about the experience rich. That is what it is when you have experience in a lot of different areas. Now, the way that you talk about it, you need to narrow that focus so that you understand what it is that the person in front of you wants. They don't want all of your experience. They want some of your experience. And the other thing, I'm on the board of the Age Equity Alliance. And one of the things that we're really working hard on is to get rid of labels. We are not Gen Xers, Gen Zers, boomers, or millennials. We are people across the ages. So I resist using labels. We don't want to assume that every person that is 50 or above doesn't know technology. That is so not true. I mean, we don't want to assume that everyone that is 20 is so tech savvy. They are not. I hired a marketing manager once. She was right out of university. And I said, okay, why don't you take over Twitter? She says, I don't like that. She didn't like that. And I really appreciated the fact, because I assumed that because she was right out of college. And I said, okay, we're each going to take one. I go, I'll go to the Twitter conference. You go to this, you go to that. What is it that you are attracted to? So she was more into long form writing and things like that. So we use our skills in that way. But I made an assumption and it was not accurate. And I was the one at the time that built our company's Twitter presence.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about perspective. And I think it just irks me and gets under my skin because women in general, we've got so many labels and assumptions that are brought against us, especially as we age. And so us perpetuating them ourselves, I'm always like, I smack others' hands, but I need to always do the same for myself because, it's aging. If we're fortunate, happens to all of us,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
then as far as, Sarah's question about moving from copywriter to creative management, I agree with you. And I would just say, make sure that it's known to the people that you work with. There's nothing wrong with saying your goals and aspirations. One of my favorite one-on-ones with one of my interns way back, who now works for IDEO and is just doing amazing things. Yeah. Right. First coffee chat we had, I said, well, Caitlin, what are your goals? I want to be an executive creative director someday. I was like, hey, that's my kind of gal. Most people might hear that and be like, who do you think you are? You just started here. But just the fact that she knew herself and what she wanted was really exciting. So I know not everybody might meet it with the same enthusiasm I did. But again, like you said, when you do come up across folks that do want to bring age into the picture or do want to say, because you're too young for this or too old for that, yeah, you don't want to work for them anyways.
Right,
All right.
exactly.
we've got one more question. Oh, we've got good time, man. Awesome. Did you want to say anything else, Marty, before I ask that?
No, that was it. I love that topic. It's a
Same.
passion for me.
Same. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. So your book talks about 7 principles of agile careerists. Could you kind of just give us maybe like the highlights, a little more of what those are?
Well, it would be subject for a longer conversation. I did introduce 2 of them to you, the A/B testing, as well as parallel pursuits. But here's another one, and we might not cover all of them, but how about activate your feedback squad? Your feedback squad in your career can be from dead people, people before you that have given you advice that you really cared about. It could be from, Mark Twain. It could be from people like that. It can be from mastermind groups, people that you trust that will give you the advice that you need. We've got mentorship. We've got reverse mentorship. I've got 7 different ways highlighted in the book on how you can do that, which is to say that this is a strong way to network.
Mm-hmm.
So that is activate your feedback squad. Another one is responding to change. It sounds so simple, but so hard to do. In order to maintain your future relevance, you need to do 3 things. And this is all in responding to change. You need to, I shouldn't say you need, but you might consider of doing the following is following your DNA. We put it in the write-up. It's disrupt the model by challenging your assumptions, noticing the trends and signals, and then act. There's a lot of little things in between there, like planning and all that, so it doesn't rule those out. But think about your DNA in a way that if you're responding to change, you are going to remain relevant. Mm-hmm. I always say that when change happens, don't do nothing. Mm. It's like being a deer in the headlights is not okay. An intentional pause, an intentional stop, regroup, reset, okay. Yeah. But deer in the headlights is not okay today because people aren't going to trust you. They're not going to understand that you have strong opinions and that you're worthy of your future. And one of the other ones, it's my biggest chapter, is the optimization of the career brand. And I can't emphasize enough, I'm going to be working on another book. I'm going to be co-authoring a book in the future. And we're going to talk about the importance, once you're in a job, the importance, or in a role in an organization, the importance of developing your personal brand. I don't care if you work at companies like Apple or you work with a boutique agency. Your brand is going to be an important part of your future. What does that mean? That means speaking at industry conferences, raising your hand. Why can't you be the one that represents your organization at a conference? There's calls to entries for gazillions of topics. Submit your name. Your company, I have known from experience, your company will send you to that conference. Mm-hmm. So they'll pay for the conference, but you'll get to speak. And actually, they'll pay for the travel. You'll usually get the conference for free if you speak. Mm-hmm. But there's things like that. So that's the optimization of the career brand. So that's about 5 out of the 7. And then there's the creation of the idea zone, always keeping it fresh, always keeping those ideas so that on your deepest, darkest days, you can go and scoop those out of your bucket and get yourself back into the game.
That's great advice. I love that, because we all hit those ruts, right? Where we just feel like there's no other way, there are no other options. But when you kind of sit and begin to put into the practice some of these exercises and ask yourself those questions, you're like, well, there's really more opportunities out there than probably what I'm giving myself time to think through. Analysis paralysis is a real thing. I've been there. I've lived there. I've done that. I think we've all done that. And I loved what you said about responding to change. By responding to change, you will always be relevant. That is just another thing, career, life changes, all that stuff. It is change. And so also I wanted to double down on your note of reverse mentorship. If you do feel like I'm this way, and I'm like almost 42, there's things that come out. I'm like, TikTok, do I have to get a TikTok account? Oh, the metaverse, do I need it? But at the same time, like, if I try to not repress the 80-year-old in me, what I start to see is loads of opportunity, especially through, like, again, reverse mentorship, or even my kids, like seeing my daughter like do RP stuff and communicate and make new friendships in ways I didn't as a child. While part of me is like, ugh, another part of me is like, fascinated. So I think applying some curiosity to those things, even if you feel a little resistant, can go a long way. And I think reverse mentorship is a great way to go about that.
Well, so how old are your kids?
My daughter is 9 and my son is 5. So definitely my 9-year-old is very tech
Okay.
savvy already, but also very creative.
So fast forward college years.
Yeah.
Right. So he'll be studying, if he's in college or not, maybe studying elsewhere. Mm-hmm. He is going to be designing his life within the metaverse and designing applications for the workplace. And when I say designing applications, it's the way that people are living. So these things are being designed as we speak.
Yeah.
The metaverse started with gamers. It's now in the corporate world.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 years from now, there's parts of the metaverse that are going to feel like Zoom does right now. I would say within 2 to 3 years. Yeah. You're going to be doing things in the metaverse in a corporate way that you're now doing on Zoom.
Yeah.
No, whether you like it or not. And you don't have to like TikTok and Snap and all that. You don't have to do every social media channel.
Right.
But there's, I know people that, do their video recordings in TikTok. They use that platform for that only, right?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yep. I've definitely heard that as a tip for social media and reposting, because you get subtitles and things like that as well. And I agree. I think that there's always this part of me that wants to resist and goes back to the nostalgia and the familiar. But again, like seeing it through the eyes of somebody that's a little bit younger, that maybe sees the opportunities and can help you even understand the lingo. Like sometimes she'll say something to me and I'll be like, I don't even know what you just said to me. But I'm also in awe of it because like there's this, like you said, a whole other skill set being built. And because she's, tech savvy, but then also creative. Yeah, I do believe that. I wouldn't be surprised if she was helping design things someday within the metaverse because, like I said, it's just the opportunities that are out there. So I would just say whenever you feel a little scared, it's probably a good thing. It's okay. Just implore a little bit of curiosity and find someone who, I think the other thing is finding other people who are really passionate about it. I mean, even Bitcoin or blockchains, I was like trying to get my head around blockchains. I was working for a video company that did explainer videos about blockchains. And I felt like the project was going to be so daunting. But then when I met the people that were doing the work, they were so passionate. The passion helped propel me into taking the extra time and mental space I needed to really make myself understand, because they were excited. I was excited. So definitely looking for those. Giovanni was saying that her niece and nephews are teaching her as well and helping her relate and understand younger employees in her organization. Exactly. We've just all got stuff to learn from each other. So I think being open-minded and respectful, like you said, regardless of our age, not making assumptions.
Well, and you mentioned blockchain, and I think it's trying, we as people that are learning, we hear all this technical jargon, and then it's like, I had to get my 2015, I heard the word blockchain in California, in Palo Alto, and I didn't know what it was. And when they got into the technical explanations, they go, well, we're doing blockchain applications and we're developing, they were PhD students. And it wasn't until someone said, well, it's removing the middleman, removing the middle person. Mm-hmm. In the financial services, it's like a global ledger of all transactions. Mm-hmm. And then it distills ownership to one individual. So if Giovanni or Juliana write a book or Sarah write a book, it becomes something that is only attributable to you. This is what the blockchain can do. But, the whole thing about Bitcoin, It's a wild ride right now. I guarantee you it's going through a lot of growth
Mhm.
patterns right now, a lot of growth pains,
Yeah.
but it will be here.
Mhm.
It will be here. I'm not invested in it,
Yeah.
thank goodness yet. But
Right.
it's not going to go away. These things are just not going to disappear. So
Right.
even if you don't play in it,
Mhm.
it's good to know about it. Even though you don't do TikTok videos all day long like some people,
Yeah.
it's good to know about it, and it's good to know aspects about it that are useful to you.
Yeah. And timing is everything. I mean, if you look back and research any kind of technology in history, timing is everything. Like, so there are so many things out there that were invented decades before they actually became popular and were vastly accepted by the majority. They might have had some early adopters, but there just came a tipping point or a necessity in life in which it became an unavoidable piece of technology. And now none of us can imagine our lives without it. And so, yeah, history is just going to keep repeating itself. A lot of this stuff that you're seeing, even the metaverse, it's going through the trials and tribulations, and people maybe mock it, but at the same time, it's improving all the time. And there's going to come a time and a place when it is the right time and place. And you'll be like, oh, now I got to catch up. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, I will tell you, there are people, and I have attended some sessions in the metaverse on well-being in the corporate world. And so it's a
Oh, great.
facilitated exercise. It's not done in a classroom. It's done
Amazing.
by the beach or on a mountaintop in Switzerland. And it is phenomenal. And it is so creative and so freeing. So
Uh,
there's a lot that you can do that you might not realize.
right? Yeah, it definitely is going to open up a lot of new worlds. Awesome. If our live audience has any additional questions for Marty, we do have a few minutes to take them. Marty was also very generous and popped in her LinkedIn newsletter, Agility Thinks. So you all can check that out. I think that's a nice little reminder in your inbox to be forward thinking and future minded the way that you do so well, Marty.
Yeah, so if anybody has any, I love Giovanni's, comment about the young people, paying attention to your children. Um,
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why I joined, I think Disney
Uh-huh.
Vacation Club is to have relationships with multiple generations, because we host nieces and nephews and some of their kids at at a place where we can spend quality, fun time with them. So that generation is super fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, wonderful. I don't see any other questions coming in, but Marty, this was very exciting and enlightening and encouraging. Again, I do love thinking forward and just imagining all what's possible. So I hope that helped you all feel that way about you and yourselves and your careers and what you're doing next, no matter where you sit. So thank you,
Yeah,
Marty. Appreciate it.
I'm excited for every person on today that is logged in today. I'm excited for your careers, because I believe that just about anything is possible for you. We found out that we could get through COVID. We found out we could do remote work. We found out the value. Mothers rebelled and said, I'm not going back to the workplace in the same way that I used to. And there is a place for you.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. Women especially. We are so
Yes.
adaptable and so flexible. All right, ladies,
Okay.
it was wonderful having you all here, Marty. Thank you again. And
All right.
again,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Brenda. You're getting all the love today for sending us another amazing, fantastic guest. Marty, I look forward to seeing you in our members Slack. And ladies, next week we have a really great conversation, very relevant, very topical to a lot of us, talking about the secret of burnout. And it kind of came inspiration for this guest. She's a former guest, Aparna Ray. I brought her back because her message that came into my inbox was like what I needed to hear that day. I was writing our member newsletter and I was thinking, we're all so tired. We're angry, we're tired, we're confused, we're frustrated. What do I even say to make people feel better? There's nothing I can say. And then Aparna wrote a little bit about the myth of meritocracy. So a little bit of a spoiler on what that is. So we'll be talking about meritocracy and how it is impacting burnout and ways in which it can hopefully help you start to reframe your situations to help you feel more encouraged to press on in a way that is well balanced and respects yourself and your body and your mind. Awesome. Thank you all for participating. It was great to see your fabulous faces. I hope you join us next week. Until then, take care, everybody.